So cool. Got everyone asking.
I've just got myself one of these. It's called a Pfco, and it allows me to make money from drone pictures and drone videos. Now I got this because last year, I think last June, I put this picture on Instagram, and about 10 minutes later a local business emailed me and said, can I buy it? And it turns out I couldn't sell it without one of these licenses. Or maybe I could, or I couldn't, I don't know, it's a bit of a grey area still. But anyway, I looked into getting a qualification, turns out it's really expensive, so I basically didn't bother, and I left there for about 4 months, and then I found about that these guys called Airborne Platforms, and they do an online only course which you can buy on a modular basis, so it makes it pretty cheap. You can spread it over like 6 months. So I signed up and I did it, and when I signed up there was basically no reviews about it, so it was a bit of a gamble, but it turned out to be very good. So here's a quick overview of what that course involves, and the process, and a little bit about stuff I didn't know about when I started. Oh, and for no apparent reason, I've decided to do this on a rainy day whilst I'm riding my bike, so let's see how that goes. So a little bit about this course. Let's say you buy it online on like a module by module basis. You can do it over buy the whole lot in one chunk, but I thought it was easy to spread the cost over 5-6 months, whatever it was, to do it. And it's basically broken down into like 6 modules. So there's ones involving things like air law, airspace classification, mapping, sort of operational procedures, flight planning, all kinds of stuff. It's pretty detailed. A lot of it is, to be honest with you, pretty dull. There's lots of acronyms, lots of different types of mapping that you didn't know existed. You can't use postcodes to say where you're going. You've got to use decimals and minutes and coordinates and latitudes and longitudes and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of unusual stuff to get your head around. But I quite enjoyed GCSE geography, so actually a lot of it's pretty interesting from that basis. You do learn some stuff which you might use outside the world of drones, but yeah, a lot of it, particularly just pretty casual hobbyist kind of drone person like me with a Mavic, you're not really going to need it, but you got to learn it, so that's part of the process. It took me about 8.5 hours to get through all of that course material across those 6 modules. I started in October. I had a month's holiday in Argentina over Christmas, New Year, and then came back and I'd finished all the content by, I think it was end of March, beginning of April, and I booked in my practical exam for then. And basically, yeah, you've got to turn up and do the practical exam, which is a multiple choice theory test which covers all the content from the course. I think it's 60 questions, 80 questions, something like that. And then the practical test, which is how they assess your ability to fly a drone in a safe way. But one thing which you don't fully appreciate, or something I didn't before I started, was the ops manual. So there's a little bit on that. So yeah, the ops manual. This is effectively a document which is meant to describe in a significant amount of detail your procedures for when you'll fly a drone in a commercial operation. And I kind of assumed this would be a pretty short thing, you know, follow the drone code, don't be a dick, and that kind of stuff. But turns out mine was 48 pages long when it was finished. Yeah, really. When I started, I realised it was actually, or when I realised it was more complex than first thought, I dropped it into Google, and fortunately plenty of other people have had this same problem, and there are some free templates out there which will get you 98% of the way there. To be honest with you, you'll have to change a few details about your specific operation, the kind of things you want to do, where you're going to do it, but it does fill in a lot of the blanks for you in terms of stuff like your emergency procedures and general, as I say, loads of acronyms, that kind of stuff, which you probably aren't going to be that familiar with. It's like a second language, talking about your cap codes and your various ANOs and blah blah blah. Yeah, not something I was too fluent in, I'll be honest with you, despite having read all about it in the course itself. But yeah, put that together, shared it with the course tutor, and it seemed to be good to go, so booked in for the practical. So the practical exam is effectively you showing that you can fly a drone in a responsible manner without causing anyone any danger, and to do this they give you a mock scenario. So mine was to survey a solar farm and to do that you have to check the area out on Google Maps beforehand, see if there's any obvious hazards. You know, there was some radio masts, some fencing, some pylons, that kind of thing. There's some airfields nearby. Work out if you're in classified airspace, all that kind of stuff which you learn in the course. Check with landowners that you can fly there. Check you've got various permissions from air authorities, ground authorities, blah 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 blah. Stick it onto a risk assessment to make sure you've accounted for all these sort of things. So it's like checking your propellers aren't bent in half before you go flying, that kind of stuff. And yeah, basically as long as you don't stick it in sport mode and wazz it around at 3,000 feet, you'll probably pass the practical, maybe with a couple of minors, a bit like a driving test. My bank turns weren't very good, it turns out, but yeah, you shouldn't have too many issues with the practical side of things. Now it's probably worth quickly mentioning the paperwork, or digital paperwork as I do it, that you need to do now for every single flight. So obviously if you've got a drone like a Mavic, now you can sort of take it to somewhere quiet that doesn't have drones banned signs everywhere and stick it in the air and fly around and try not to piss anyone off, because there shouldn't be anyone there anyway. Follow the drone code and you'll be fine. However, if you want to start making money from it, you've got to do all of these things and kind of a bit more as well. So here you go. I'm going to speed this up because it takes bloody forever. Yeah, you get the picture. There's a lot of things that you've got to check and log and stick into the right documents, save and file in a safe manner, because apparently there's quite a high chance the CIA will ask to see these at some point. So yeah, I just kind of use Google Docs for everything, because I use that for basically everything in my life. But yeah, if you don't have that, you'll probably have a lot of lever arch files or similar, which isn't all that fun, but yeah, it turns out it's necessary. So be prepared to do all that if you want to be a commercial drone operator. Yeah, there's also one more thing which you probably don't realise, but it turns out to actually be necessary. Not only do you need to do all the paperwork, but you've also got to get dressed up like this. And not only that, you've got to stick your signs up. You've got to put your cones out, and all sorts of other stuff as well. So yeah, get yourself some high vis. You'll be needing it. Now, as far as I can tell, the UK sort of commercial drone market is split into about two pretty broad sectors. You've got your really high-end guys who've got your Inspires and Matrices, sort of 10-20 grand's worth of drones with thermal imaging and infrared and complex mapping stuff like LiDAR, and they're obviously brilliant at what they do. They kind of have the market sewn up, I'd have thought, for high-end operations, be it like Hollywood filming or you know, high production value drone work. And then the other end, you've got people like me, you've got a Mavic Air or Mavic Pro or Pro 2 or whatever, and you're probably doing something like wedding videos and you're using this to add to your current business. You're probably flying in pretty low risk areas, you know, like the outside of a marquee in a field where there's not that many chances of something going too terribly wrong compared to filming on like a film set, or, you know, a congested area like you'd expect a higher end operator to be doing. So it does seem a little bit strange that there's one qualification which fits all. And a kind of good thing about that is that I could buy a 20 kilo drone tomorrow and go fly that legally on a commercial operation, but am I going to do that? No. Do I think I'm ever going to need to do that? Pretty unlikely. So yeah, I think I'm pretty overqualified with the Pfco as it currently stands. And another thing I didn't realise when I signed up for this last October is that there's actually some new regulations mandated by the EASA, who are the European Airspace Association, I assume, European air people, and that I think is going to supersede everything that the Pfco governs anyway. From what I gather, there's lots of chat on various Facebook groups where no one seems to really know, but there's a new document called the CAP 1789, which is a 32-page document. I've not read it. It looks pretty exciting. But yeah, that comes into action, I think, from June next year. So there's a chance if you get a Pfco now, by the time June next year comes around, it won't either won't be valid or won't be needed in the same extent. From what I can gather, top line, I think they're basically going to classify drone flights into sort of 2 or 3 different categories. And if you're someone like me who's going to fly it to make wedding videos, travel videos, and do some like solar farm work like I've done recently, you may not even need a commercial license because it's such low risk activity. You may not be able to get insured, which could be another issue if you don't have a commercial license. But yeah, it's worth keeping an eye on if you're going to sign up for one of these courses in the next couple of months, because there's a chance it's all going to change. There's also some new consumer drone regulations coming in November this year. Again, I don't fully understand it. I've just got my head around Pfco for now, but yeah, it's worth just having a quick Google. Drone pilots do quite like a lot of detail, it turns out, and they're quite officious should you try and do something not 100% within the rules, so I wouldn't try and bend it too much. But yeah, just check out. You're not about to spend £1,000 on something which you won't need. So yeah, just keep an eye on it. I can't offer any kind of specific advice on that, I'm afraid. And yeah, obviously let me know in the comments to the extent to which I've totally misinterpreted that, because I'm sure I've just got it all wrong. But as I say, I'm not too fussed because my Pfco is valid till June next year, so I'll worry about it near the time. So that was kind of long and rambling. In short, so I've got a Pfco. The course is kind of equal parts interesting and dull. It's certainly really overkill for the kind of work that I'm doing, just shooting a bit of drone footage at weddings and other similar things, but the rules are what they are, so I'm kind of glad I got it. I've already made back a fair chunk of the course fee in one job that I've had so far, which was surveying some solar farms, which was kind of easy work, and it was quite near where I live, and there was 4 of them next to a wedding I was at a couple of weeks ago, so that's quite handy. But there doesn't seem to be a huge volume of kind of low-hanging fruit commercial work available. I found that on Upwork, like the freelance site, but yeah, I wouldn't expect it to start raking in the cash as soon as you got the qualification. I think it's certainly something which is quite nice to have, and you know, earn £100 here and there on the side. But yeah, I'm not going to be sacking in my job to make millions from a Mavic just yet. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see how the drone market evolves over the next year or two. There's more and more of them, they're getting cheaper. You're starting to see them everywhere. If you go to a tourist attraction in seems any country in the world, you're either surrounded by drones or surrounded by drones banned signs, neither of which are a great situation. So hopefully we'll get some sort of middle ground. Hopefully they get a bit quieter and a little bit less annoying, which I think is the main issue people have with them, as well as this fear of spying, which isn't really a thing if you've seen through the lens of a drone and the lack of zoom that they have. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. You might go like Canada. You might have seen Peter McKinnon's video a few weeks ago, which is quite interesting. I didn't realise the extent to which they've regulated it. Essentially, if you don't have the equivalent of a Pfco out there, you can't fly a drone anywhere in the entire country. So yeah, unless you've got the cones and the high vis, etc., and the qualification, no drones. So a lot of those guys are essentially selling their drones, which seems like a bit of a shame. But it is what it is. So it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves over the next year or two. I've got it. I've got no idea if I'll renew it come next June. See what the new European regulations do. But for now, I will keep flying, make a bit of money on the side hopefully, and see how it goes. But yeah, let me know any questions, particularly about that, the Airborne Platforms course, because I've done it and I know not too many people have at this stage, so happy to help on that one.